to be as active as possible so that their nutrition and their physical activity come together and make us a healthier and a happier world. So you'll see from this picture, I love this picture on the screen because I'm always amazed at this pose, and most of us wouldn't be able to achieve what this young man is managing to achieve, well, not intentionally anyway, and really looking this good. It's amazing what the human body can achieve and look like, you know, with the right amount of effort, conditioning, and of course, nutrition. So today we are going to be introducing the sport performance protein. So we're going to get right to it and show you what it's all about. So we've just got to move this, get the slides to move. There you go. So that's what the product looks like, and we say it's for sport-focused people, but also just for active people as well. So don't feel like it's only for a certain group of people. It's for everyone who's being active. But what I thought I would do today is highlight some of the elite sports people who are using the product, because that kind of gives you an idea of the sort of caliber of product and the fact that people make it their choice. And obviously, as I say, we've launched this product in South Africa. So we have some people in South Africa on that sort of level, elite sports people who are performing on an international platform, who are using the product. So I want to just highlight those for you, and then I would encourage you in your countries to obviously go out and, you know, focus on active people and any elite sports people that you know of. So let's just have a look at some of them and their stories. So now these are some of their social media platforms that they're putting them out there, and you'll see that they're taking a variety of different products. This is a South African cricketer on the international scene. I mean, he's there with the Indian captain, the captain of India. So this is very high caliber, you know, sports performance, and they are someone like him choosing to use the products. And this is one of his tweets that he put out. Rugby is a big sport in South Africa, as you probably know. Skulk Brits, a well-known figure here. He's actually 38 years old. He came back to play in the World Cup recently. He was running around that field like a 25-year-old. And he's got a big smile on his face. He always has. But there he is holding a whole variety of different products that he chooses to take. Bongi Mbanambi, we've got a long relationship with him, and he's been using our products for many years. Springbok rugby player. And of course, they take products for their families too. You know, their children and their wives and people in their extended families, because they want them to have the benefit of different NeoLife products. So the sports performance protein is in there, but of course they're taking many others as well. Another cricketer, also on the international scene, David Miller. He's about to go and play in the UAE in the international IPL cricket competition. I just put this up there as something that he tweeted. You know, what I'm trying to point out here is that he may be a cricketer, but obviously all sports people do what they call cross-training. So they have their particular sport that they perform in, but they have to do other things behind the scenes. And this is just an example of his high-intensity interval training that he was doing now during the lockdown. And this is an enormous amount of work that's not on the cricket field. It's behind the scenes that he needs his body to be able to do. And this is what you'll notice many sports people do. Even whether they're recreational sports people, many people go to the gym, for example, to complement the other sporting activities that they do. And that's where you'll find this product will work in both spheres of one's sporting career. Just again, another rugby player, Willie Leroux, he's now going to play in Japan, and we have a business in Japan, so he'll be able to get his products there as well. A very talented player. And they're all these are their tweets that they are showing us the products that they are using. And Sia Kolisi, of course, he's the Springbok captain, and there he's sharing his product with his family, and he's again choosing products for the whole family. So you can see that we've got products, as Brandon said, that really are world-class. The most important thing is they work. And then just to move to another discipline in swimming, here are these two youngsters who are brothers actually, and high achievers. You see that Michael, for example, was actually chosen for the Olympic team, but unfortunately it was cancelled. So you can just see the sort of caliber of people that are using the products and choosing to. And actually we were just chatting to Chris McGlynn the other day, and I wanted to just read something that he commented about. And this was one of his testimonies, one of many of them. This is what he says. One of my favorite products from NeoLife is the Sport Performance Protein Shake. After 5 hours of training, my body thanks me for refueling it with world-class nutrition. I've never felt so fresh the next day after taking it the night before. It is a product I trust and something I can't live without. And the taste is also 10 out of 10. So that's coming from the sports people themselves. What I want to point out, and I think is very important, is that we don't pay any of these sports people. They choose to take our products. And if you think about it, you know, these are high caliber sports people, international figures, in fact. So they're on every company's radar, if you like. And they don't have to settle for, you know, just anything. They can pick and choose. And some companies, of course, do pay people to say things about their products. And that is not something NeoLife does. We know the quality of our product. We know it works. That's why we make the products. And people choose to use them. And, you know, and just chatting to this sort of caliber of sports person, they're very particular about what they put in their bodies. I mean, what they eat. I mean, they have to be. And when it comes to supplementation, and obviously they are very convinced that they need that extra bit for the sort of effort that they are putting in and what they're asking of their bodies. And of course, look at the training schedules that they have. And many of them travel to countries where they're not familiar with the food and all sorts of factors that play a part in what could hinder their performance. So they have to be very particular. And in terms of supplementation, that's where it comes in and plays its part. But again, they also comment that one of the biggest issues that they have in terms of supplementation is they have to know that it's safe. They have to know that there's nothing hidden in that product that possibly could come up as a sort of a potential doping agent, or what might be perceived as one, that would really ruin their reputation and their future, actually. So that is at stake, and very important in terms of what it is they put actually into their mouth, something that, you know, we've learned a lot from them as well. You know, so who wouldn't want to make NeoLife's performance protein, you know, their training partner? They certainly, this group of people that I've shown you, and of course there are many others, and we've got many recreational sports people using the products who have chosen to make it their training partner as well. You know, so good nutrition improves the way we train, the way we perform, the way we recover from training and exercise. And we've learned a lot, as I say, literally from the people who are using our products. We formulated it for them, and now they're feeding back the very things that we actually went out there to try and achieve. But let's start talking about the body and what the product actually does for it. You know, there's no denying the importance of muscles for physical fitness. Contraction of muscles, in fact, allows all of us to climb or to jump or to lift or to throw things. In fact, anything you can think of and any movement that we do, our muscles are involved. And of course, they're also in a constant state of being remodeled. You know, I think in NeoLife, we've learned that everything in our bodies, it regenerates itself. So even like blood cells, they will live and then they will die, and new ones will be born. It happens with our skin. And of course, it happens in every factor in our bodies, our bones. And of course, the muscles are no different. So they're constantly being renewed, regenerated. And so we have to have tools to enable them to do that. And protein is the tool that is going to enable that to happen, and plays a part, of course, in how we can build, how we can strengthen and maintain those muscles. So we're going to talk about the product, and we're going to talk about the right type of protein, the amount of protein, and the timing that we should be taking that protein at. So let's have a look at some of the different aspects of our performance protein and how it relates to different sports and how our body actually relates to the product. So something we'll be familiar with, and for those of you who are familiar with the products, we have other protein-based products. And we know that our signature for our protein products, it has all 22 amino acids. So we need to remember that, because I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about some of the amino acids. But whatever I talk about, I'm talking about them in context of being part of the 22. Right, so I talked about muscle, and every sports person, it doesn't mean we have to have huge muscles. We have to just simply be conditioned. Obviously, if you're a weightlifter or you're a bodybuilder, then muscle size is going to matter. But actually, muscle conditioning is very important for every sport. So even if it's a soccer player who must be nimble on his feet and have a good eye-ball coordination. His muscles all over the body have to be working for him. So that is what we're focusing on here, a whole variety of different needs. So it would make sense that our focus is going to be on a protein that's going to match the muscle. What does muscle specifically need? See, why am I going on about the distinction here? Because we've got 22 amino acids that make many others in the body. And remember, protein, while I'm talking about muscle, proteins are used for other things too. Proteins make enzymes, they make hormones, they transport things around the body. So they have a whole lot of different jobs that proteins do. And some proteins actually have an affinity specifically for muscle. So that's the context I'm working in. But let's just have a perspective here. There are some of those amino acids amongst the 22 that will go to go and make the enzymes or the hormones or do the other things. And we want to focus in this product on things that are going to gravitate and work specifically with muscles. So that's what I'm talking about. When we have a product now that we have put together combinations and concentrations of those 22 amino acids to make sure that they focus on muscle specifically. So we have suggested that the product is in a powder form and that we mix it with non-fat milk. So we're going to get additional proteins from the milk and other value from the milk, but we don't specifically want the fat. And so that combination is going to give us 26 grams of protein power that's going to be specific to our muscle. Right, so what makes this particular product focus on muscle rather than, as I say, enzymes or hormones or bones or other things? Well, it's the type of protein that we've chosen to use as our source of the amino acids. And I'm going to mention these things because while they might seem a little confusing, these are the things we need to know because these are the sort of things our sports person out there is asking. Well, so what protein have you got? Or have you got whey protein? Whey protein is what sports people are interested in. That is the source of the amino acids. Now, where does whey protein come from? What is it? Whey protein comes from milk. And possibly the best way to sort of distinguish it is if you were to leave milk around, it would sour. And you would see if you left it for long enough that you get sort of solid bits and you get liquid bits in that milk. And the solid ones are like called curds. Basically, it's curdled. And the liquid part of that combination is the whey protein. So that's actually the part of the milk that we're using. It's not that the fact that it has to be soured. I'm just distinguishing the two different proteins that you will find specifically there. So whey protein is very rich in the amino acids that have an affinity for muscle tissue. And now something else that might just be a new thing to you, which amino acids are these of the 22? Well, there are actually 3 of them specifically of those 22 that we would get from whey protein or are particularly rich in the whey protein. And they are collectively termed branched chain amino acids. And again, people are going to ask you, so have you got branched chain amino acids in your product? And all that fancy branched chain thing actually means is it's just talking about the structure of that amino acid. If you were to draw it, it would have certain branches on its structure. So it's nothing fancy other than collectively, those 3 amino acids of the 22 have that particular structure. And so they've been called branched chain amino acids. And then, of course, people start to compare the quantities and what have you. But to answer their questions, yes, we've got whey protein, and yes, we have branched chain amino acids. And there's one of those 3 amino acids that are called branched chain that is actually well known, and its name is leucine. And it particularly has a very strong affinity for muscle building, for regenerating the muscle, for retaining the protein in the muscle, and generally feeding it, energizing it. So this product has got everything that is needed to focus on muscle, and it will answer all the questions that people will ask you. Whey protein, branched chain amino acids, and leucine, yes, we focused on those. So that's what makes it muscle specific. But what intrigues me always, and I'm sure it does you too, is always something extra in the NeoLife products. We never leave anything to chance. We don't just add things for the sake of it. We actually always put in things that are very specific to what the human body is going to need. And that's why these next 2 amino acids, which are actually not branched chain, they are part of the 22. And in fact, they're not even what they call essential. Our bodies can actually make them. But the interesting thing is that glutamine and glutamic acid, when our body or a body is under stress, And that stress could be, it could be an operation. It could be a disease. It could be stress from a lot of exercise, which of course you run a marathon, you're putting your body under stress. The body becomes less efficient at actually making these two amino acids, glutamine and glutamic acid. And so the body's going to stay stressed for longer. So we're not leaving that chance opportunity there. We are putting it into the product in a slightly higher concentration than we've got it in our other products to make sure that that sports person who is excelling in their sport, I mean, you heard with the swimmer, 5 hours of training, that's putting stress on the body. And so we don't want to leave something that normally the body can make quite happily, but because it's slightly under stress, isn't doing that. And it affects the way our cells work, it affects the way our nervous system works, our message from our brain to our limbs. Our immune competence gets compromised. It affects our digestion actually as well. So we have added that to this performance protein to make sure that it literally covers all the bases. And it always intrigues me how our scientists manage to do that. In every product we have, there's always an extra bit that makes such a lot of sense. So I hope the muscle match concept, which is what our protein is, we're calling our protein, because it's got to match the muscle. And it has the right kind of protein, whey protein, that's the source. It has the right amino acids from that food source and the right concentrations of them too. So you can boldly go out there and talk about it as a performance protein. Right, so the 22 amino acids, we've talked about that. But again, it's not just about protein, even though I'm making a big thing about muscle and protein. This is what tends to happen out in the marketplace. A lot of people are only focusing, a lot of sports people, particularly those guys in the gym or the women in the gym who are wanting to build actual muscle. They think that all they need to get out of a product is protein. And they don't realize and don't think about the other parts of the body that are needing to work. The heart still needs to pump, the brain still needs to work. Everything still needs to function in its normal way, even though you are focusing on a particular component or a particular sport. So we don't just do protein. We have added 25 different vitamins and minerals to make sure that they're available on demand for any other activity in the body. But what we've done specifically again is of those 25, which we have in other products as well, we have increased the amount of chromium. Now, chromium is something that the body can't make. It has to be gotten from our food, and it's not needed in huge amounts, but it's very important to help us metabolize the protein and the carbohydrates and the foods that we eat, and very important in regulating our sugar levels. And you think about that, that's what actually keeps us energized. We don't want to have highs and then lows and then highs. That doesn't help our sporting endeavors. You can't have someone who's feeling good one minute and then flat the next. So we've enhanced some of the ingredients yet again to make sure that we're helping people's bodies operate at constant levels of energy with the right amount of chromium in the diet. And we also added slightly more magnesium than we have in the other products to make sure that we're actually conditioning and focusing on the muscle. So protein, of course, is king, but other things work with it, and the body as a whole is working together with all the muscles. And then again, when we bring out products that are new, or we bring out a new edition of something, we generally upgrade other things, or we bring in new concepts that we've talked about and thought about. So our sweetening system, all the way, that we bring some of the carbohydrates into the mix. We've used honey, we've used fruit, we've used stevia, which is a natural plant sweetening agent. We even went to rice and got some of its natural sweetening syrups out of it to make this product very palatable. And I have to tell you, it is delicious. And that, apart from that, you want another one when you've just had it. It tastes like a pudding. It tastes like dessert. And that is complete contrast to some of the products on the market. Some of them are, frankly, quite awful. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a NeoLifer. You'll find a lot of sports people say that they actually have to put their fingers over their nose and they literally swallow down a product because all they want is a whole lot of protein. And that thing is lumpy and it tastes like cardboard. And that's, as I say, not being biased, it's quite a common comment that happens in the marketplace generally among sports people. So to have a product here that has all these credentials and tastes delicious is really quite a winner. Now, this is also another thing that I think we need to equip ourselves with in terms of information. We've got all the right things from the protein score. We've got the vitamins and minerals. And again, a lot of sports people tend to stay away from the carbohydrates. They say, oh no, there's sugar in there. And I think they think that we actually put a spoon in a sugar bowl and sprinkle it into a product. And that, of course, is, couldn't be further from the truth. You need carbohydrates, we all do, to give us energy, and that it turns into blood sugar, basically. And that's what flows through our veins, keeps our brain alert, which, of course, is important in a sport. And it keeps our muscles, fueled, and it gives us energy. It enables us to get to the gym, pick up the weight, and then to do the work so that the protein can build the muscle. So to leave out carbohydrates or to want to come down to an absolute minimum isn't always serving your purposes. So we include carbohydrates, but you'll see what it says there, protein-sparing carbohydrates. Because if you didn't have any carbohydrates in the product and you were having just a whole lot of protein, where would you get your energy from? Your body would have to say, well, I've got to make some energy, I've got to have some blood sugar. So what it does is it simply uses some of the protein that you've swallowed and converts it into glucose, a blood sugar. So now you've pretty much wasted some of the protein that you thought you were using for your muscles. So rather have it in the combination, let it do its job, and spare the protein to do its job. That's why we call it carbohydrates that are protein sparing. Again, a very logical introduction and a logical inclusion, but we need to remind people about the fact that's the reason why it's there, because you get a lot of sports people who don't want to use anything that's got anything that says carbohydrate or maybe relates to sugar. Remember, there's sugars in fruit. They're called fructose, but they're carbohydrates. There's sugars in milk. They're called lactose, but they're carbohydrates. So people, honey, for example, people say, oh, I'll have honey rather than sugar things. Honey's got glucose, fructose, and sucrose as part of its natural makeup. So people have got a misunderstanding about sugars being bad for you. Sugars are simply part of the carbohydrate family, and they're naturally occurring, and our bodies need them to energize us. And then again, for those of you who've used some of our protein products, this will be familiar. What we need to remind people is that we've been in the protein business for 60 years. We were actually innovators and pioneers of instantizing protein powder. And that's why we're so good at it now, because we've gotten used to how to instantize it so that it doesn't become lumpy, that you just put a liquid with it and it's a drink instantly. And so ProtoGuard is part of our process. And what the word really means is guarding the protein. And we make sure that we don't denature it, that we don't raise the temperatures. The way we work with the actual raw material, make sure that we still have the quality of the food components in there, and that we can represent all 22 amino acids. That's why we talk about them so much. And our process is to guard the protein, or the ProtoGuard process. And that's a feature of NeoLife. And as I say, we've been pioneers and initiators of these protein powdered drinks for all these many years. So no wonder we're pretty good at it. Again, we don't just let people swallow this and say, well, we hope it gets to a muscle somewhere. We put enzymes in there because this has got to go through the digestive system. So we put an enzyme blend from plants that enable that food, that protein powder that you're going to swallow and all the other things that are in there to be absorbed, and then they can be distributed around the body effectively to the muscle, which is where we want them to go, so that they can enhance our performance. So you can just see I'm packing slowly, showing what we've got, and this is how our scientists think about something that's going to make a difference in someone's life, particularly their sporting prowess. And again, quite unique if you think about the convenience factor of something like a powder. And in this day and age, that you can have something with all these things and have nothing artificial in it. No artificial colors, no artificial flavors, sweeteners, and of course, no preservatives. That's why the sports people choose to use this product. They don't care whether they're being paid or not. They're getting things that their body wants, and it's going to actually enhance their performance in a very big way. And that's why they keep coming back for more. And that's why they also introduce the other products to their family members, their kids, their parents. Quite amazing, and a very good example of our product. Right, so again, another feature that one should consider, and as I said, we talk about all the carbohydrates and the sugars and things, and yes, they can fluctuate your blood levels, and they can spike it and then drop you, and you can have these irregular levels of energy, which is exactly what you don't want. So we are world renowned for what we call our glycemic response control technology. So we test the product to see how it behaves. It's one thing about the ingredients, but when you swallow it, what does it actually do? in your bloodstream when you've absorbed it. And it gets into the bloodstream, the body recognizes it, but it doesn't rush in there with a spike of sugar, and then your insulin goes crazy and your body gets upset. Pretty much we keep your sugar levels in a balanced form so that you've got energy to perform the sport that you're involved in. Right, so where does it fit in and how do we use it? Now, there are different ways people are going to experiment with the product, but what we're suggesting are that, that you can use it before a workout, and the reason for that is, of course, for all the things I've mentioned. It's got the vitamins, it's got the right amount of carbohydrates, keeps your blood sugar levels stable. You can use it before a workout because it's going to give you that sustained energy, and then it's going to also, the protein is going to go to the muscle and fuel it with the right nutrition. But very importantly also is to use it after the workout. Whatever training you've been doing with wherever it is and whatever you're doing, because that's actually when you've made a huge demand of the body, and now it needs to recover to some extent. You want to build muscle because maybe you've been in the gym and now you've been exercising, lifting weights, and now you want some action, you want some result. And this is when your body is actually at a sort of peak metabolic state. There's almost a metabolic boost after exercise, and it's going to be very, very receptive to all those nutrients that I've talked about. So you'll be able to recover by getting back your energy. The protein will go to the muscle area where it's designed to do. It'll start to build, and it'll also start to repair because obviously you've demanded a lot of your body. So there are different ways of using it, and people found their best way. But I think I want to talk a little bit about the timing and the distribution of the protein, because, as I said, people will have their own theories, and when they're a sports person at that sort of level, they understand their body, they listen to their body, they know what's best for them. But this is the way a product will work in terms of the timing of the protein that when you take it and how you distribute it through the day. Ideally, as I say, directly after exercise, because that's when you're going to get the maximum benefits. That's when you have that metabolic boost. And so it'll be maximum boost, and everything will be very receptive to the nutrients that are present. And it will taper off through the course of the next 24 hours. And even while you're sleeping, there'll be some metabolic activity. But you want to take advantage of that metabolic boost. So if one takes it immediately after exercise, you're going to get maximum benefit. And in fact, there have been comparisons done where people have taken it 3 hours later, they're going to get much less benefit and much less muscle building capacity from that protein source that they're taking in if they wait up to 3 hours before they start replenishing their protein. So as soon as possible, within the first hour, that's the heightened state of protein synthesis, and your metabolism, as I say, it's working directly after exercise, but dwindles within the first 24 hours, the next 24 hours. Also an interesting thing of how to take your protein through the day. You know that you've got to ideally take this particular product with all its protein benefits and all the other things with it directly after exercise. But what we tend to do, and it depends on one's lifestyle. I mean, a lot of these sports people that I showed you, they only do their sport. So they spend 2/3 of their day training. But many of us who are sort of more recreational sports people, we've got to go to work, we've got things to do. And so we have to fit it into our day and fit in our food into that sort of plan of our day. And what typically happens is we eat little bits along the way, maybe a bit of breakfast, maybe lunch, and then we have often a big meal at night, or we have one of our meals is bigger than the others. We have our main meal of the day. And in fact, that doesn't seem to serve the muscle very well. It's been found that it's better to have your initial amount after your exercise and then to distribute protein evenly throughout the day. And it's been found that when you do that, you get up to 25% more muscle building or growth by doing it that way. For example, if we had somebody that was taking 90 grams of protein, that big guy, and he took 30 grams through the day, 30, 30, 30, he'd get a much better result than taking 10 at breakfast and 15 maybe at lunch and then 65 grams at dinner time. The body will not actually work, his muscles will not be as responsive, and he'll not get the results, even if he takes at 90 grams of protein, than if he split it 30, 30, 30, or perhaps if he exercised in the morning, 30 in the morning, and then maybe 10 for a snack, 20 at lunch, 10 for a snack, and then 30 at the end. he'd get a much better, or she would get a much better result from spreading the protein through the day. And at every meal, there should be at least 20 grams of protein in that meal. So that's just to give you an idea of how to optimize the use of a product. So if it were me, I would recommend that people took, let's say, the performance protein directly after the exercise. But of course, I think you probably saw in those pictures that people were taking NeoLife shake as well. And I don't want to confuse the issue, but there are definitely people who would like to take both perhaps. And maybe we should look into that shortly and just see how they compare. Because you could actually take, for example, you could take your sports performance protein as your post-exercise protein drink. And then you maybe for one of the meals, you could have a NeoLife shake, or you could add it to that meal so that you can enhance the amount of protein. So, you might be having a salad for lunch, but in actual fact, you could take a shake with it and you'd be getting an extra 18 grams of protein. So that's what I mean. We could actually use both products in combination. So if we're choosing to use our performance protein, this is our promise to people using it, because this is very important, as I said, to sports people. But there's nothing potentially dangerous, no stimulants and nothing in there that's going to harm the body, nothing artificial. And in fact, we guarantee the product to be free of any substance that's currently banned, right up to the Olympic Committee. And of course, there's an international body called the World Anti-Doping Agency, and it's their mission to make sure that people do not have sports-enhancing agents, in their diet, in their plan when they're participating in a sport, a competitive sport. And we, in fact, would give people a letter to that effect from our scientific advisory board to say, we stand by our product. And I think you can be, really proud, I certainly am, that we have products like this that people are certainly wanting to use, because you saw the sort of caliber of people who are using it. And we have got all these things that we can verify and support them and make them feel at ease that this is the product for them. So as I say, who wouldn't want to have a product with all those things we've talked about and all the benefits and all the things we know about the product and how it will work? Who wouldn't want to make it their training partner? And I hope that you're going to go and talk to a whole lot of sport-focused people and just active people and motivate them to actually see that they can get some really good results with the effort that they're putting in. So without getting into too much detail, but perhaps just to show you some of the pertinent things between performance protein and, let's say, NeoLife shake, because one could take both of them together. As I say, you could spread them out through the day. So your main use for the performance protein is going to be energy, but muscle repair and recovery, whereas your NeoLife shake is going to be for daily nutrition. It's got all the 22 amino acids, but we haven't tweaked it to the extent of muscle match, but it will enhance the protein content of the day. You'll see if you look at the protein sources, we have similar protein sources, but can you see the ones that I've put at the front or the top? Those are the dominant ones in each of the products. So we've gone for the whey protein more specifically in the performance protein, and yet it's further down the list in the NeoLife shake, because we're giving a general nutritional product for NeoLife shake with all the 22 amino acids, but we've tweaked those same 22 amino acids and made some of them more dominant in our performance protein. The amount of protein in the performance protein is a little bit higher, and you'll see there that we've enhanced the amounts of the branched chain amino acids and the glutamine and glutamic acid. So they're present, but we have tweaked it to make it more in keeping with performance for sport. Again, if I can just comment, like things like fiber might be, you might not even think about it, but a lot of people who are certainly not eating enough carbohydrates, perhaps because they're going for protein all the time, are simply not getting, apart from they're not getting enough carbohydrate, they're not getting enough fiber. And so we want to make sure that people have a balanced diet. And you might think it's me going on a little bit. There's some people who eat, 18, 20 eggs a day because they want protein, and they can think of nothing else. And all the other foods are going, by the way, all the other nutrients. So we've got a product that, that's very balanced, giving them everything they need, plus everything the body wants. All the vitamins, of course, are there in both the products. Just one thing, we've got one flavor in the performance protein, it's vanilla, and as I say, it is delicious. But if you want variety, we've got 3 different flavors, the vanilla and the berries and the chocolate in your NeoLife shake, and that's quite nice to have through the course of the day. We've changed the sweetening agent a little bit, and just to make it so delicious, as I talked about. But it also brings down the sort of sugars component that people are looking at. But they will be there because, as I say, they come from fruit. 11 grams of sugars that are, for example, in the NeoLife shake are coming from fruit. That's even less than a normal portion of fruit. So I just wanted to show you that they are complementary. They have the same sort of ingredients, if you like, and we've just tweaked them, the one more to the sporting performance idea and the other to complement their protein intake. Right, so that's what I had to share with you today. As I say, no reason why anyone wouldn't want to make this their training partner. And I hope that you're going to, in your country, go out and find people who are looking for something that they can trust, that works, that will keep them safe, and in fact will enhance all the efforts that they're putting into their sport. So that's from me. Thanks very much.